Former executive councillor Barry Jung charged with fraud and conspiracy to defraud. North Korea says it's working on a plan to fire missiles into the sea off Guam. And FBI agents raid the home of Donald Trump's former campaign chairman.
Good evening. Barry Jung, a former Executive Council member and close aide to former Chief Executive Lee Chun-ying, appeared in court today on fraud charges. The 59-year-old remained stoic as he was mobbed by reporters leaving Eastern Magistrates Court this afternoon. He was charged with conspiring to conceal the true financial position of his now defunct Hong Kong Mercantile Exchange from the Securities and Futures Commission, and causing or permitting false information to be supplied to the market watchdog. He was also charged with intent to defraud a company out of $30 million. No plea was taken today, and Jung was released on bail of $50,000. The case will be transferred to the District Court on August the 24th.
Commercial Crime Bureau officers arrested Jung this morning at his Happy Valley flat. He was arrested on one count of fraud and a joint charge of conspiracy to defraud with co-defendant Jackie Choi, who was the chief financial officer of Jung's now defunct commodities trading platform, the Hong Kong Mercantile Exchange. They're accused of conspiring to defraud the Securities and Futures Commission by concealing or failing to disclose information on the exchange to the market watchdog. Prosecutors allege this resulted in misleading information being supplied to the SFC about the platform's financial condition. They said that such conduct had caused the SFC to not withdraw its authorization, allowing the exchange to provide automated trading services in Hong Kong. Jung's fraud charge stems from his allegedly cheating Sinomax Finance out of $30 million to benefit his firm, New Effort Holdings, which was the exchange's majority shareholder. The charges span over a year from May 2012. Jung was a staunch supporter of Lee Chun-ying and ran his 2012 CE election campaign. He resigned from all his public positions, including the Executive Council, the Urban Renewal Authority and Long-Term Housing Strategy Steering Committee in May 2013, as he was under police investigation due to his trading platform. He founded the platform in 2011, but it folded in May 2013 after he surrendered its trading license to the SFC, citing poor trading revenues that weren't sufficient to support operating expenses. Jung was declared bankrupt in April 2015, amassing debts of $116 million. 5 months later, the troubled businessman escaped jail time for failing to pay a Hong Kong Mercantile Exchange employee around $340,000 in wages. He was originally sentenced to 6 weeks in jail by a Kowloon City magistrate, but a High Court judge quashed that and ordered him to perform 160 hours of community service instead.
Well, police went to a Tuen Mun primary school today to investigate allegations the number of students enrolled there had been inflated. Officers took some documents from Hing Tak School, including the students' sick leave notices and other school records. According to sources, an initial police investigation has found the students' enrollment numbers differed from those on record at the Education Bureau. Investigators have yet to get in touch with the headmistress, Chan Jun-ping, who failed to attend a school board committee meeting today.
The death toll from the Zhuhai-go earthquake in Sichuan province has risen to 20, with 431 others injured. Experts say there's the risk of more landslides in the quake-hit area. Caleb Leung has more.
Almost 2 days after a 7-magnitude earthquake struck Zhuhai-go in the north of Sichuan province, police and rescue vehicles continue to move into the stricken area. Part of a national highway was cleared of debris yesterday afternoon. The highway is a key route linking the airport and the disaster zone. It now provides limited access to some of the worst-hit areas for rescue vehicles. Emergency workers using heavy machinery continued to clear the road of boulders that had rolled down the hillside. They're also erecting steel sheds on the slope to reduce the risk of more landslides. Normal traffic is expected to resume on the highway in 2 days at the earliest. Meanwhile, satellite images show numerous mudslides in the area. Experts say the earthquake has loosened the soil in mountainous areas, so there may be more landslides after heavy rainfall. On other highways that are still blocked by debris, rescuers have to go into the disaster zone on foot. As for the 60,000 locals and tourists stranded in the area, almost all of them have now been evacuated. Some local residents as well as government agencies, such as the Postal Service, handed out free food and drinking water along the way to rescue workers and visitors leaving the area. Some locals also offered other kinds of assistance, such as providing rides to hospitals for quake victims who require medical treatment. Flights to Chengdu and Chongqing have also resumed at the Jiuzhai Huanglong Airport near the disaster area. Caleb Bloom, TVB News.
North Korea has announced a detailed plan to launch a group of intermediate-range ballistic missiles towards the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam. The latest threats from Pyongyang come as serious questions are being raised about the U.S. strategy for North Korea. The latest volley in the war of words between the two countries was announced on North Korean state media in the name of a general who heads the country's rocket command. As it dismissed U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks of fire and fury against North Korea as a load of nonsense, the military said it's preparing a plan to fire 4 ballistic missiles into waters around Guam. The plan could be finalized by mid-August and would then go to leader Kim Jong-un for approval. Such a move would put the U.S. in a much more complicated situation than it has been during previous missile launches. The U.S. has been testing its missile defenses, but it would be harder to intercept all 4 incoming missiles at the same time. While Trump was threatening annihilation and tweeting boasts of a U.S. nuclear arsenal he said has no equal, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson insisted Washington is not signaling a move towards military action. Analysts say Trump's menacing response may have inflamed the situation and could hurt the chances of getting China's cooperation to enforce sanctions.
Definitely, President Donald Trump's statement calling for war or unprecedented fire and fury is not constructive in the peninsula. It actually will damage the global leadership and the global reputation of the United States.
Look, the president is sending a strong message to North Korea in the kind of language that North Korea understands.
Meanwhile, on Guam, some residents are shrugging off Pyongyang's latest threats, while others are worried.
We have little kids, that they don't know what's going on and what is the president doing to protect us? I blame him.
It's pretty crazy. And I don't know, I've been looking at the people here acting like nothing's not a problem, but I think it's a really big problem for us.
Well, meanwhile, North Korea has freed a Canadian pastor who had been serving a life sentence on humanitarian grounds. A statement from the Canadian Prime Minister's office says Haeon-soo Lim had been freed and will soon be reunited with his family and friends. The announcement comes amid a spike in tensions over the North's nuclear program. Lim's case was taken up by a high-level Canadian delegation that went to North Korea earlier this week. Sweden's embassy in Pyongyang, which represents several Western nations in North Korea, also helped. Lim was sentenced to hard labor for life in late 2015 after North Korea accused him of attempting to overthrow the regime.
FBI agents have raided the home of U.S. President Donald Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort. As Sonia Artero reports, they're searching for any paper trail that may prove someone on Trump's campaign helped Russia to meddle in the 2016 presidential election.
Political consultant Paul Manafort played a key role as Trump's confidant as he ran for president. Experts say FBI agents believe Manafort is hiding something, so they got a search warrant showing probable cause that a crime has been committed.
The execution of a search warrant means that there is a concern that the individual has documents that are harmful to him that he may not turn over cooperatively.
This is why the FBI conducted a surprise pre-dawn raid on his home in Alexandria, Virginia on July 26th. In it, they seize Manafort's banking and tax records from his foreign business dealings in Ukraine and Cyprus. To ensure they leave no stone unturned, they also issued a subpoena to get their hands on documents Manafort may be hiding at his bank. They hope that by following the money trail, they can track the money Manafort paid or borrowed to buy real estate properties. Special counsel Robert Mueller's main goal is to find if anyone on Trump's campaign helped Russia by hacking into and releasing emails aimed at embarrassing his opponent, Democrat Hillary Clinton. Manafort responded by saying he has and will continue to cooperate with law enforcement. As Trump calls the probe a witch hunt, comes word that research firm Fusion GPS has turned over salacious findings involving Trump and his alleged ties to Russia. Purported collusion between Trump associates and Moscow have dogged the president since he took office in January. But Russia adamantly denies meddling. President Vladimir Putin said he's flattered. Some people actually believe Moscow has the power to sway elections. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
A probe is underway in Cuba to determine if U.S. Embassy employees there were subject to an acoustic attack. A group of American diplomats in Havana are suffering from severe hearing loss attributed to a covert sonic device. Experts believe the device was used to either eavesdrop or intentionally harm Americans in or out of their homes. But the Cuban government insists it never permitted any such action against diplomatic officials. The U.S. retaliated by expelling 2 Cuban diplomats from their embassy in Washington, D.C. The U.S. and Cuba re-established diplomatic relations in 2015 after more than 5 decades of hostilities.
French police shot and arrested a man suspected of deliberately ramming his car into Paris soldiers, injuring 6 of them. Armed police from elite units tracked the man for 5 hours. They eventually cornered him on a motorway about 260 kilometers north of Paris and shot him several times. His condition has not been released. Police say he laid in wait for the soldiers, who were part of a unit called Operation Sentinel. It was launched in the wake of Islamist attacks in Paris in early 2015. A terrorism investigation has been launched in connection with yesterday's attack. Kenya's election took an ominous turn as violent protests erupted after opposition leader Raila Odinga alleged fraud. Police shot dead at least 3 people and protesters killed a 4th. Demonstrations come as voting counting continues with 97% of the ballots tallied. President Uhuru Kenyatta has an almost 10 percentage point lead, but Odinga alleges that the Election Commission website had been hacked to produce fictitious lead for Kenyatta. The commission responded that the election had been free and fair.
Still ahead in the news. The MTR's net profit in the first half of the year up 46% year on year.
Welcome back to TVB News. The MTR Corporation's net profit jumped by 46% to more than $7 billion in the first half of this year. Still, positive interim results were overshadowed by recent service disruptions. Elmi Lung reports.
The MTR Corporation's CEO again apologized for recent service disruptions, notably on the Kwun Tong line, where a signal failure affected services for over 10 hours last Saturday.
We do appreciate that our passengers are concerned, and we are concerned as well. MTR's overall service quality at this 99.9% is still a relatively reasonable and a world-class service quality.
In the first half of this year, driven by profits from property development, the railway company's net profit reached $7.48 billion. That's a year-on-year increase of 46.1%. Still, the company is wary of uncertainties ahead.
In our advertising business, we saw a decline in our advertising revenue. Our shopping center reversions in the first half. We saw a reversion which was down 2.2%. So these are some of the economic uncertainties that may continue to challenge the overall business environment in Hong Kong and for MTR.
Speaking of its key projects, such as the Express Rail link, the MTR said it's now 94% completed. As for the Sha-Tin to Central link, MTR executives will report the latest cost estimate to the government in the second half of this year. However, they warned of increased fees due to the discovery of relics on site and the late handover of a plot by the Convention and Exhibition Centre. Elmi Long, TVB News.
More than 500 people are on the committee organizing rural leader Lau Wong-Fat's funeral. Lau, is also known as King of New Territories, was a prominent figure in local politics. Apart from serving as chairman of the rural body Hung Yi Cook for more than 30 years, he was also an executive council member and a lawmaker. He died last month at the age of 80. An obituary announcement noted a visitation will be held next Wednesday at Hong Kong Funeral Home in North Point, followed by the funeral on Thursday. Among the hundreds of people organizing the funeral are former chief executives Tung Chee-hwa and Leung Chun-ying, current CE Carrie Lam, and ranking members of her administration.
The Chinese University of Hong Kong has discovered a new way to detect a type of head and neck cancer, even before symptoms start to show. Winner Wong reports.
It's a rather rare type of cancer known as nasopharyngeal carcinoma. The nasopharynx is an area in the upper part of the throat, behind the nose. NPC is known to be exceptionally common in southern China. Here in Hong Kong, more than 800 cases are discovered every year. It's also more common in men. There are 3 males diagnosed for every 1 female patient. Apart from genetics, a diet high in nitrite can also increase the risk of getting NPC. For example, eating a lot of processed foods and cured meats like bacon, salami, and sausages. To add to the bad news, NPC is hard to spot. Sometimes there are no symptoms during the early stages. Usually, patients are diagnosed at a late stage, and the survival rate falls to about 60% after 5 years. But doctors at the Chinese University of Hong Kong said they've discovered an easier way to detect the cancer through blood tests.
The test principle is based on the phenomenon that a cancer cell would release its DNA into the bloodstream of a patient if there are cancer cell death. Each time a cell dies, there's a possibility that its genome, its DNA, would be released into the bloodstream. So the principle of the test is basically to detect that circulating tumor genome.
Doctors hope screening can be widely available to the public. If detected early, the survival rate of NPC can be around 90%. Winner Wong, TVB News.
OK, it's over to you for some sporting action, right?
Yeah, we're going to start off in London. News about an athlete